Good morning, everyone. You are watching episode 1. This is actually the real one of Merritt in the Morning with Jim Merritt and Brad Klopfenstein. Obviously, I'm Brad Klopfenstein.
And I'm Merritt.
There we go. So this is largely a figment of Jim's imagination, and I agreed to help him with this. So we're going to do this pretty much every other Thursday morning. We're coming to you live from Cafe Audrey's at beautiful Fort Bend.
And the coffee is terrific.
Thank you, Jim. They'll appreciate that. As you can see on their screen, they're open for breakfast and lunch 7 days a week. They're now open for dinner.
Yeah, I've heard a
Wednesdays.
rumor they're open for dinner.
Sheila and I came here last week for dinner on Thursday night. It was fantastic.
What'd you have?
Did I have? I had a salad.
Salad.
That was like my one healthy meal of the week.
Okay, mix in a salad.
Yes. So, and then we are going to go to Theater at the Fort to see The Great Gatsby Saturday night. And so we're going to meet some friends here for dinner, and then we're all going to go over to the
Fantastic.
show.
Yeah. I'm gonna have an egg sandwich for breakfast. What are you gonna have?
I'm having oatmeal.
Okay.
Well,
everybody-
fat ass.
Cafe Audrey is the perfect place to have a breakfast meeting or a lunch. And so glad they're gonna be open for dinner.
Me too. And I'm glad that they were willing to host us.
Yeah.
We had to go through how many dozens of places?
So we've been kicked out of several.
That's right. So let's see, we got one more slide here. We are also brought to you by Alpsprow Beer.
Yes.
I brought a prop today.
Excellent,
There you
excellent.
go. We'll put
We
that
haven't
to you.
consumed this morning, but
Speak for yourself.
Alpsprow is a very, very good beer, and I hope, you know what? I heard also another rumor that there's more circulation, there's more
There is.
distribution.
There is, as of yesterday, we've been out for a couple of weeks.
Right.
Full disclosure, I own this trademark. Two Tom's Brewing out of Fort Wayne is brewing it. They've got a tasting room up on 96th Street. And the first run sold out in like 7 days. So we went almost 3 weeks without any product.
Well, Two Tom's is right out in front of what is that? It's Sam's Club.
There's Sam's Club and Menards on 96th
Menards
Street.
on 96th Street, East 9th, just west of 37.
Correct.
And stop in Two Tom's. It's a great place.
Jim's the best person I know at plugging. And shit.
Well, you gotta have plugs.
Hey, I love it.
Yeah,
So,
but we gotta talk about the Chamber of Commerce as well.
we do. So I am president of the Greater Lawrence Chamber of Commerce. Jim is a former state senator for 30 years.
30 years.
Now has a consulting firm.
And Merritt in the morning.
And Merritt in the Morning now, star of Merritt in the Morning. So let's see, let's go back to, there we go. We'll go to that screen.
You know what today is?
Thursday.
Thursday. Today is, for some people, the greatest day of their year.
Oh my gosh, it's the officially the NCAA tournament started on Tuesday.
That's
but
true.
It starts in earnest today. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, people start skipping work today to watch the tournament because there's nothing more exciting than an upset on Thursday in March. And people love that tournament. It ought to be in Indianapolis every year. All the games like it was a couple of years ago. But I was heading up here. I was with Rob Kendall at WIBC today, and then I turned it on to 107.5 The Fan, and Kevin and Query were playing the music logo for the dance, and just that music gets you started in the morning, and everybody loves the NCAA tournament, basketball, girls and boys.
CBS does a great job with
The
that.
CBS does a wonderful job.
And I agree. It should be here every year, although isn't this the year that we start hosting the NIT Final Four, at least at Hinkle Fieldhouse?
I don't know that for a fact, but if so, we'll do a good job with it.
If it's not this year, it's next.
It's
but-
probably next year.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, basketball in Indiana. It didn't snow on sectional, but I think
It did north of here.
Huh?
It did north of here.
Yeah,
You go with what?
but it did snow this week. And
Yeah.
so right around the middle of August, and everybody knows in Indiana, chronically, it snows and sectional weekend.
Yeah, it
But,
does.
We're in the fort today. We're at Cafe Audrey. Thank you very much. Kate is our server. Alps Bra is our sponsor, and there's so many things to talk about today. And the legislature is just about finished with their work. Every 2 years, they have a biennial budget. And right now they're trying to get their prerogatives, their agenda for the next 30 days. And you're going to be hearing more and more about what's going to go on for the next 2 years and how we're going to try to bring businesses to Indiana. And with your position, your valuable position as president of the Lawrence Chamber of Commerce, it's good to have the fort here because so many things are going on at the fort.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So in addition to Cafe Audrey's now being open in the evening, the new True by Hilton Hotel just opened up, literally right next door.
Right.
The theater at the fort is doing some fabulous productions. Right behind there, you've got the cultural campus with the musical swings. Heartland Film just moved into the Starrett Center. So yeah, right down the street is Triton Brewery, Fort Bend Pub, Fitzgerald's. We can see them out the window.
Right.
So
And you got building one, which employs how many people?
4,000.
4,000 people. Not everybody's there at the same time, but that is an incredible employer. I remember when I was young. I remember when the Brad Commission decided that they were going to close Fort Benjamin Harrison. And at that time, I think there were about 2,800 people that were employed in that big building. And the interesting part of that building is that's the pay center. And so it's really the veins, the blood for the military. And many of us were very fearful that the fort would be closed down. That big employer for a lot of citizens in central Indiana would be gone. And luckily we were able to make lemonade out of that lemon. And when we wrote the legislation that created the reuse authority, we really didn't know how we were going to reuse the land here, but it got awards. And we have a state park here. We have a wonderful golf course. And we definitely made good out of bad.
Yeah, that was great. Now, me and my wife Sheila, we live over on Lawton Loop in one of the old officers' quarters.
It's beautiful.
Oh, it is. Love it.
Yeah.
But fun fact, if we call 911, Homeland Security gets notified because of our proximity to building 1.
Wow. Well, that building is so large that as I recall, if there were a nuclear strike, you'd want to be in that building because it's fortified.
Yeah.
And it's quite an edifice, and the federal government's done a really good job. And you can't go anywhere in Fort Harrison and not be impressed with the growth and with the change and with the life of the fort. And I am so proud. This is a gem in the crown of Indianapolis that not many people really know.
That's true.
They don't know of it.
That's true.
Yeah. And you live here.
I live here. I love it.
And Cafe Audrey does a great business here.
Every morning I wake up and I look out my front window and it looks out on the playground of Lawton Loop. And I'm just like, I can't believe it. I live here.
Imagine I imagine you have a lot of neighbors that have dogs.
Yes.
That love that parade ground.
Yes. And pick up after yourselves.
Yes.
So moving along, you mentioned today's NCAA tournament. One, where are you going to be watching games?
Well, today's a busy day, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to watch games. I just keep a very busy schedule, but we have enough screens at my house that I'll probably be able to catch some. Obviously, being an Indiana University alumni, I'll be watching at 9:50 tomorrow night, that being Friday night.
That way IU is guaranteed to be in the final 33 teams in the tournament.
Where will you be watching Purdue University?
Actually, I will be in my easy lounge. In fact,
When do they play?
Purdue plays Friday night at 6:40 or 6:45.
So we just abut each other. That
We
is
do.
just wonderful.
Actually, yeah. So the Purdue game leads into the IU game, and tomorrow St. Patrick's Day, and tomorrow is also the Greater Lawrence Chamber Legislative Luncheon.
Wonderful.
So I managed to pack my day full of stuff. Although for anybody who's coming to the luncheon, I have given the guarantee, I will get you out of there by 1 so that you can have a beer in your hand by 2. So that is my promise.
That is wonderful, wonderful.
Hey, look, breakfast is here.
Your breakfast is here. Wow, is that just incredible? This is egg sandwich and with bacon and with hash browns. And it looks like you stepped on them, which is how I like my hash browns.
Smooshed into the pavement.
You know that term, Kate?
That-
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like them crusty.
Wow.
Yeah,
I like a crusty, like.
stepped on.
Yeah. So you can go ahead and eat. So who have you picked to win the tournament? What's your final 4?
I have not done a bracket yet. I want obviously Indiana and Purdue to do well. I think there are some sleepers out there. One, any Big Ten team can get on a roll. They're all, I think the Big Ten is so even this year. But I think that, I think you look at a team like Creighton, which has great outside shooting, and with the NCAA tournament, it's all about guard play. And that's why I worry about Purdue with being 2 freshmen, if they can rise to the moment. You obviously have Edie, IU has Trace Jackson Davis, and they will get their share of points and rebounds and assists, but it all depends if you can hit the outside shot.
The secret to Purdue's success is, you're right, if the guards can hit some outside shots, that pulls the defense out and it opens it up for Edie, and that way they can dump it down. But if they're relying on just dumping it into Edie, the defense will pack in, that pushes him out.
Yeah.
He's really only good from about 7 or 8 feet.
Right,
And
but also Club, Fairleigh Dickinson, who won last night, their average height, their tallest player is like 6'4". They are the shortest team in the tournament. And so I think Purdue probably averages 6'8".
oh,
And-
easy.
and-
Yeah, our
and-
forwards
and
are 6'10",
Yeah,
6'11".
yeah, and so it should be a fairly easy win for Purdue. Unless those players can put their hands over Edie's face. But bottom line is I look for Purdue to do very well in this tournament. And I think you're gonna see teams like Kansas, Arizona, UCLA, who when you watch them on television, they look like pro teams. They are big, they're quick, they can shoot the outside shot, and both Arizona and Kansas really took IU's number this year, and very impressive basketball teams.
So you're an IU fan, you go
I am.
a number of games. So what's your prognostication? How far can IU go? How far will they go?
Well, I haven't looked at their track, other than if they win this game, they'll probably either play Memphis or Drake, and both are very good basketball teams.
They are.
But I think IU has a very good chance to either be in the Sweet 16 or the Final 8, and it just all depends on which team shows up. If it's a team that played Iowa or Northwestern, not so much. But if it's a team that beat Purdue twice, then I think we've got a chance. And so it just all depends on if they're hitting the outside shot. It's all about veteran leadership and guard play. What do you think?
I've got Purdue in my final 4 of 2 brackets. I got Purdue winning in one and losing in the championship to Kansas
So
in the other.
You've done two brackets.
I did a provisional. I did one just so I didn't look like a homer.
That's okay.
Yeah, but Tennessee's been playing well. Actually, Duke's been playing well.
Duke has
I'm
been
glad that
playing well.
Purdue handled them fairly easily early in the year.
Mhm.
So hopefully that's the Purdue team that plays this tournament.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's always a fun run, and yes, Purdue very well could be the second number 1 seed to lose in the first round.
Yeah.
Thanks to
Well,
Virginia for taking that. honor.
I think Purdue University is tired, and I think the players are tired of hearing about IU, number 1, but
Yes.
2, more importantly, being a easy out.
Mhm.
And last year was bitter, I'm sure, and it's frustrating.
It's not always easy to be a Purdue fan. I mean, we can only point to our 25 Big Ten championships.
Yeah.
So many
Which is darn
times.
good.
It is. And then all the IU fans say, well, look at our
Right.
5 national championship banner.
Do you think Do you think Coach Woody at IU has been talking with people at Ball State and places like that about Kent State's the matchup tomorrow night?
Oh, well, yeah, Michael Lewis is the coach at Ball State. I am sure that Michael Lewis has given them all sorts of film. So where Purdue is going to benefit is short turnaround games. So, you know, you've got all these schools that aren't in the Big Ten who have not seen a Zach Edey before. And they're going to have at best 48 hours to prepare for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's hard to replicate a 7'4" athletic dude in practice.
That's true. Problem though is, the referees have been conditioned on how to call Edey, and Zach Edey and his largest, because as we remember with Shaquille O'Neal, he had 3 fouls before the first half was over.
Yes.
Chronically.
Fortunately, Zach Edey's not real foul prone.
Yeah.
So even if
He's
it's a
got
bad
great
call,
footwork.
he does. So,
Great footwork.
all right, let's move on to another topic for this morning while we're having breakfast. Daylight saving time.
Mhm.
We just turned our clocks. Actually, my house, we turned most of our clocks forward last Sunday morning.
Yeah.
There's
Why not all?
There's still a couple, because I forget about them, and
No, yeah.
so
So from November or October, whenever we change it, you just got back into.
okay, this is funny. So my wife, her clock on her nightstand, she did not change it back in the fall. So she's been doing math all winter. And now she's thrown off because she wanted to get up an hour earlier
Mhm.
than the other day. And so she's thrown off, but her clock is now right.
Mhm.
She has to adjust to make sure she's not doing math.
We have a friend who just moved in from Phoenix who has daylight saving time. And one of the last states, I
Mhm.
think. And or doesn't have daylight saving time.
Right. They're like us.
Yeah, and he was coming down from Muncie and was an hour late because he didn't change his clocks. And so, you know,
Well, that happens.
yeah, it does happen, and there are victims everywhere for that. So it really changes your day. It really changes your day, and hopefully we can,
Thank you, Kate.
hopefully warmth will be coming along quicker. Sunlight is, and that means golf courses and everything doing outside.
Well, I'm excited for it.
Me
So
too.
there is a movement afoot at the federal level. I think the Senate might have passed this, to make daylight saving time permanent. And where we don't change our clocks, we're just offset. So instead of it high noon being when the sun is directly overhead, high noon is now at 1 o'clock.
Really?
So how would you feel about permanently being on daylight saving time? That's part one of that question. And then you were in the legislature when we passed daylight saving time for Indiana. Should we be on Eastern or Central time?
Well, number one, we ought to be on Eastern, and daylight saving time was always a very controversial issue in the state of Indiana. And it took having a governor, Mitch Daniels, as being the torchbearer, because on controversial issues that bother people, if you will, that harass individuals, you need somebody at the state house that is going to really take the charge and not worry about the negativity of all. And push the public policy together for certain reasons, not be fearful of feedback from the public. And
Mhm.
I like exactly what we've got today. I don't mind changing our clocks forward and spring back, or excuse me, spring forward and fall back.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that. And I don't have a problem with what the system is today.
Okay.
How about you?
I don't know. I kind of like not changing the clocks, although I will say when I bartended in Broad Ripple 20 years ago, then on a Saturday night in June, you'd be working, and by the time you got cleaned up and got out of there, and effectively we were on Central Time at the time, there were a couple shifts where I would get out of there and there would be some light on the horizon for the next morning, and that is just soul crushing.
It is.
All right, Mike.
It is so
I
close.
worked the entire night.
Yeah, and also when during the winter time now, it's sometimes dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And that is soul crushing in itself.
My dad and stepmom live in Newburgh, and they're on Central Time down there.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, that's their lone complaint is, yeah, it's 4:30 in the afternoon, it's dark.
Yeah,
So,
so
which,
in Indiana, if it's a state oriented legislation policy move. I don't see us changing it because it's just, it's a haul as a public policy issue. And back when we changed it, social media hadn't gotten momentum. And so that has really hampered controversial issues because of social media being so prevalent in our society. And so if it's a state issue, I don't see it changing. Now, if it's a federal issue, who they have a hard time passing anything out there.
Yeah. So I just realized we've never really reset. There might be a bunch of people who are just tuned in who are like,
Oh,
why are Brad and Jim screaming their breakfast?
Eating breakfast in front of everybody.
So what you're watching is episode number 1 of what will be a bi-weekly podcast that Jim and I are doing. It's called Merritt in the Morning. We've got that on the screen for you. And we're going to talk about issues of the day. Sometimes it will be political. Sometimes it will be about what's going on in central Indiana. Other times it'll just be about whatever we want to talk about.
Maybe we'll have a movie review.
I would love to have a movie review.
Reading books lately. This is our show and we're going to do what we want with it.
That's exactly right. And I want to thank Cafe Audrey's for graciously being our host. Oh, and Alps Proud Beer here. Let me burn through our screens here. So see, Jim, you can see I taught myself sort of PowerPoint.
We're learning on the way.
So, but that's who we are. That's what we're doing. And actually the sign behind Jim, you can't see the top of it. It says work hard and be nice, which is
one of the things we believe in.
Yes, the great mantra. So next topic that I had for us today, obviously there was that Norfolk Southern freight train that derailed and had a bunch of hazardous chemicals released into the atmosphere and the environment. They have since then had at least one more major derailment without the leaks that they had on the first one. But this seems to be a reoccurring issue. Indiana they were putting some of that hazardous waste out in Putnam County. You used to work for a railroad. You might even still consult for a railroad. Should we have more regulation of the 7 Class A freight railroads in the United States?
Well, I think as president of the Lawrence Chamber of Commerce, you've always been really interested in this because we have a railroad that runs right through Lawrence.
We got CSX has a double track that's busy.
Yes, and I do consult with a railroad just for full disclosure, and we ought to be concerned about. But we also we've got lots of effective federal law in place now, and there could be crises along the way. But there is waste on our byways, on our railroads and our highways on a daily basis in the state of Indiana. And I think it's incredibly important for those railroads to be very cognizant of their impact on society, be it a derailment or what we've experienced in all small towns of Indiana, where a train just stops. And they rest cars. They store cars. We've not had a big problem in Lawrence about that, but you just never know.
Newcastle, I know, has had a big problem with it. Yeah,
and so the public policy on how to govern railroads is something that's very important, but you can't overshoot. You can't over govern, if you will. And I think it's important that we're ready for crises, that we understand what happened in the Norfolk Southern crisis, if you will. And it sounds like they're getting their arms around exactly what's going on or what went on and how they had a fire. But you can't have a public town hall meeting every time waste comes through the state. And we have these policies. It turns out that that Heritage Group, who owns that landfill in Russellville, Indiana, was doing exactly what we thought they would be doing. there's always a very important part of being a railroad that does share a track going through a town to be as open and transparent as possible and allow public comment. It's just a very, there's a demand for a healthy balance between transparency, but also having commerce coming through Indiana.
Right. Well, it's so railroads, I mean, that is interstate commerce, multi-state commerce, by and large regulated by the feds. And I know that states and local municipalities will sometimes try to pass laws, ordinances regulating the railroads. But at the end of the day, how effective are those, and are those really enforceable? Because I know, like, even here in Lawrence, I was talking to Mayor Collier, and he said when they go to repave streets, that there's a certain 6 feet or something from the tracks where they can pave right up to that, but then CSX won't let them touch it.
Right.
So, you know, so the city relies on CSX to improve crossings, and it's on CSX's schedule and not necessarily the city's schedule. So.
Right, that's exactly right. And the state of Indiana actually has been working on a public policy with the Indiana Department of Transportation where they'll pave crossings with in working with a railroad. And that is so important because those crossings can get undeniably rough and can really wreck some automobiles. And so there needs to be a really good contribution to our society that railroads have to provide where you have smooth crossings and it's safe. And I think that's the most important part. And what a better mayor. I don't know a better mayor than Mayor Collier, and we're going to miss him very, very much. We hope we have a spirited campaign in the fall, and the victor is our next mayor that represents us as well as Steve Collier has the last 8 years.
I would agree. I mean, it's, you know, I've only lived here in Lawrence for 3.5 years, but Lawrence was always perceived to be somewhat of a screwed up backwater.
Yeah,
and
lots of rivalries, lots of Hatfield McCoys, and Steve Collier has been very professional and done so much for the city of Lawrence and Central Indiana because as we talked about, Cafe Audrey and the Fort, as where we're broadcasting from today, has played a big role in the growth of Indianapolis.
Yeah, no, and I agree with your assessment of the race. I mean, regardless, we're all neighbors here, and partisan politics hopefully will not get in the way of making sure that our city is vibrant and growing and robust.
Yeah, no question about it. Good public policy.
Yeah.
By whoever wins. And now everybody knows I'm a Republican. I hope Dave Hoffman is the next mayor of Lawrence.
But you're a Republican?
Shocked by this. Anyway, we're broadcasting live from Cafe Audrey in lovely, beautiful Fort Benjamin Harrison, and Al Sproul is our sponsor, and we're just really lucky to be here. And the food is excellent at Cafe Audrey. They are now open for dinner, and there's so many great things that are happening in Lawrence Township and the city of Lawrence.
Hashtag why I love Lawrence.
Exactly. Absolutely.
There's your plug, city of Lawrence.
Yeah.
So I had one other thing I wanted to talk about today. Ideally, these are going to be half-hour segments. I think we might go a little long today, but we have stuff to talk about.
Sure.
You were on the Utilities Commission.
I was.
Net metering.
Right.
So net metering, for those of you who don't know, is if you put solar panels on your house, obviously you can power your own house with that. But then it used to be that any of your excess power would go, you could sell that back onto the grid and reduce your monthly utility rate accordingly. That was altered a few years ago, where it now goes, you get a percentage of that back that is, I think, equivalent to what it costs the power company to generate that, but you don't get the full 1-to-1 amount. Where do you stand on net metering? I know you're also an advocate for small nuclear reactors in your
Right.
basement.
Well, energy is going to be our future. We can't attract jobs, we can't attract companies to the state of Indiana and in the city of Lawrence without a reliable source of energy. And net metering, I actually authored the bill way back in, I think, 2005, 2007. That was a long time ago, where we were trying to incentivize people to use alternative energy for their homes, for their businesses, that being solar, that being wind turbines. And I think it's still a valuable issue, public policy statement, but on the larger sense, nuclear power with small modular reactors is still very important because we are moving away from coal. And it's the environmentalists as well as the idea that nuclear power has become more reliable, safer, it's green, and it's expensive, and it's going to take some time. But and what I said on Rob Kendall's show at WIBC this morning is that the first, a lot of times we govern by crisis, and you've heard about the brownouts in California. The first minute the lights start blinking in Indiana, people want to be able to go to that light switch and turn it on. And once you can't do that, that reliability, people are going to start questioning. And so we need to see in front of our headlights and promote a small modular reactor for central Indiana, or what I've proposed is hubs around the state of Indiana. And because you can bury these, they are safe, because they've made a couple movies and they had a horrendous problem in Russia. Nuclear power has come so far, and they're actually Navy ships that have powered or powered by nuclear power. And so, issues such as net metering, I think in the beginning, we wanted to incentivize people to get to put a solar panel on their house. And that has fallen back a little bit because we've had pretty good success of people using alternative energy. And now I think it's important that we talk about the big space.
So now obviously as battery technology advances for automobiles, I would have to think that could very easily translate into home use where, yeah, if you had your own solar panels, you can store that energy in batteries. And that way, if there's an outage, instead of having a diesel backup generator, you've just got a battery that'll last for 2 days or whatever.
Well, you just put your finger on storage. That has always been the problem with energy is we have had a very, very difficult time getting towards battery storage where you could generate energy during the day and use it at night. And so the wind doesn't blow as much at night. You don't have the sunlight. And so that's really the key. And IPL, now AES, has a battery storage building on the south part of Indianapolis. And we're going to learn more and more about that in the coming year. But Tesla and the use of electricity in powering automobiles, it's kind of interesting. You want the environmentalists don't want us to use coal to create electricity, but they want you to use electricity for your automobile. And so it's kind of it's a little ass backwards, ladies and gentlemen.
A lot.
And so the use of small modular reactors, which are starting to pop up around the country a little bit, it is so valuable to Indiana because the rush against coal, as well as we're trying to grow our economy, and the only way you can grow your economy is have reliable energy.
Let me ask, where are you on hydroelectric? Because obviously the water behind a dam is effectively stored energy. It's a battery.
Oh, I think it's, Mitch Daniels was a terrific president of Purdue University. He also was a wonderful governor of the state of Indiana. Public policy when I think of Mitch Daniels, I think of public policy are us, just like Toys R Us. And he took issues and continued it at Purdue where he was breaking new ground. And I think that hydrogen, hydroelectric, I think everybody needs to understand that our public policy, the energy policy of the state of Indiana, as well as America, has to be all the above. And nuclear power, hydrogen, hydro, it is all about, all a part of that above everything. It has to be, everybody's at the table, creating energy. And we're gonna grow economy a lot quicker if we have all the above.
Here we go. All right. With that, I'd like to thank all of you, probably all 6 of you. For the
We'll grow it.
We are.
You gotta
So,
start from somewhere.
again,
One
you can,
brick in the wall.
yeah, you can now say you watched the very first episode live of Merritt in the Morning with Brad and Jim. So we're coming to you live from Cafe Audrey. We're gonna do this every other Thursday morning. So let's see if my math's right.
Oh,
Will
no.
we be doing this right before the Final Four?
Well, I don't
Again?
know. We're gonna be doing it a lot in
Okay.
2 weeks.
Okay, so I think that we will not be at to the final game yet in 2 weeks. So we'll know our Final Four by then, and hopefully be cheering on Purdue and IU. So thank you all for watching. Let me go back to I'm editing on the fly. So there you go. So thank you for watching Merritt in the Morning. Thank you very much to Cafe Audrey's for being a gracious host. Thank you to Alps Proud Beer for being a gracious sponsor as well. So you all take care, have a great week, and thanks for watching. Good.